Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mindful SRNA RRNA Podcast. I have another special guest here this week, and I'm so excited. Her name is Sara, and we actually work together. I'm going to let her talk about herself a little bit more, but we work together. I met her maybe 5 years ago. I was like brand new to the hospital we work at together, and I think I might have spent like one of my first days in there with her, and she was a leader. Like, she just had a quality about her that she knew what she was doing. She wasn't playing games. She took care of her people. And we've actually just created a friendship like over the years. So she has so much to share with you guys on leadership principles, which I preach and preach and preach to all of you as you guys are growing into CRNA leaders, talking about burnout, talking about perfectionism, communicating with surgeons and working in the perioperative environment and all the things. So we're going to tackle all that stuff today, so you guys don't have to always keep hearing it from me. And she's got just so much wisdom to share. So welcome, Sara. I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
These are some topics that I'm pretty passionate about, especially leadership and just leading a good team. Because it's been a journey. You know, it takes a lot of maturity and time and years in the business to develop them. But it is important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. And that's why I just think this is such an important conversation for aspiring CRNAs, because so much is obviously learning from people in the perioperative environment. Like, there's so many people like circulators, managers, leadership, charge. I mean, there's so many people in that operating room that can be such mentors and can help us just serve patients so well. So I just think I'm excited to hear your perspective and for you to kind of share with them, because there's so much to learn from the people in that environment. And it's not all bad, guys. Not everybody is mean. So that's like another thing too. There's just great people that you can really learn from everywhere. And I'm so excited to learn from you today and have you share your stuff. So tell us a little bit about your nursing journey. Like, how did you kind of get to where you are today? And then tell us about your title and your role.
For sure. So this started in nursing 27 years ago. This is my 27th year. Wanted to be a nurse since I was super young. Had some nurses in the family, so that was my start, and I knew that was what I was going to do. So started just on a general medical floor, just basic med surg background for about 10 years. Did a little bit of emergency room in there. Then did operating room where I was a scrub nurse. Did a little bit of office-based work, and then came back to the hospital where my current position is for the last 10 years in endoscopy. So just GI and pulmonary endoscopy cases, and then became the charge nurse, and then turned it into the clinical shift coordinator title a few years ago. So just lead the pack of the endo team. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
Yes. And like, guys, I don't know about y'all, where y'all at, but I've always loved the endo nurses. Like, there's just something about them. Even like when I was like in clinical practice, we would go to endo like post call, and they just took such good care of us. And I have to say, wherever I kind of go, like the endo like area, just a different breed of people. So I really appreciate y'all. You guys just take such good care of us.
It's a good balance of case types. You know, you can have anywhere from, very easy bread and butter type things to then more complicated. And that's what, we've been experiencing now lately is the more advanced cases and working towards that. But honestly, I will say it right now, again and again, is that I have the best team now that I've ever worked with in my career. Really, really good teammates, good variety of skill level. And it's just the interdisciplinary then too, with whether it's anesthesia, the proceduralists, all of them, upper management. It's a really good team there now, and that makes a huge difference. So I think that's really also helped grow my leadership skills, and just learning from a team that we can learn from each other, essentially.
Absolutely. And how did you get into being like the coordinator? Like, how did you kind of get into that role of being on the leadership side?
I had done charge nursing throughout my career, whether it was on the floor, in the operating room a little bit. I've kind of always, I don't know, maybe natural leader is kind of a cliche-ish kind of word, but I kind of always rolled into that role a little bit. In endoscopy, the charge nurse that was there was leaving. So kind of tossed it around. A couple people had talked to me about it, and then I thought, yeah, I can do this. I do like to keep everything in line and keep things moving. So it's just it's come at different levels, like I said, whether it was on the floor in the operating room or now in endoscopy where I'm at. So just kind of the quick, person was leaving, so I stepped up to the plate.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love that. And I like, even for you guys, like hearing that, like always be looking for opportunities where you can step up to the plate, where you can like step in. Like, I love that. Always keep your eyes open, your ears open, even at clinical, even when you're not the CRNA yet. It's so important to, what is the need here? How can I fill in this gap? How can I step up? How can I do that? That's just such an important part. Like, you matter even when you're in school. Like, you do have a voice, you do have a lot to say. So I like that you were just like, I saw a need. And I think a lot of aspiring CRNAs are kind of like, we naturally want to be in charge. I feel like that's a lot, and right. Even kind of like your experience, you kind of gravitate towards being that calm in the storm and doing those leadership things. So I think that's awesome. And plus, you do such a good job. Like, we get really sick patients there, and it's just so nice to know that you and your team, like, I feel comfortable that you guys are just my right hand, right. Doing stuff. So it's nice. Right. So talking about, like, there's been a lot of change in your department, like a lot, and there's been like construction changes. You've had a lot of staff changes, a lot of new physicians and stuff like that. Talk to me about building and like communicating and kind of putting that together, like doing all the leadership things that you have to do, running the unit during all the times of turmoil. Like, walk us through that a little bit.
So that's probably been the biggest challenge in my career. These last 2 years were quite challenging as far as construction goes, and then building new interventional GI plus pulmonary services. I am a go 120%, and if I can't get that done right now, it's hard on me. So I really had to bring that back a little bit in myself. But so I had to, take it step by step. Say, okay, we have to deal with the construction now. So we have to deal with where we're going to be located and how we're going to work around those challenges, but then add in new services. So it was just literally a step by step by step by step. In all of this, trying to educate the staff, trying to bring on new products that we were going to need to bring in. So all these different layers that were challenging to bring in quickly, while not stressing myself out too much, while not stressing the group out too much. So it was more of a, okay, I have to bring all of this in, but I also have to maybe not stress the staff out and tell them everything every step of the way, because I don't want them to get overwhelmed. I have a bit of like the mom complex where it's like, I'll take it on myself, but I don't want to do it to them, right away. So I think the hardest part for me and the takeaway is you have to have a high bar, but you can't have that bar so high where you're stressing yourself out too much and aren't able to attain it. So little goals that you can meet, just step by step, and take it just one step at a time, because there was so much hitting us. We had staffing issues too, which is not unusual for anything, especially anesthesia, I think, at this point too. But it can be very, very overwhelming. But just took it step by step and tried to enlist all the help that I could. My other problem is I have a hard time asking for help, so that was new for me, to need to ask for a lot of help. But I learned a lot in the process, and that was probably the best I learned about my leadership skills, myself, and what I can handle.
Y'all, did you hear what she said? Step by step, one step at a time, right? Priorities. I always talk to you guys even about studying, like triage. Like, triage it. It's what we do, right? We got to triage our other areas of our lives too. That's a high level skill we have as nurses, right? I love that you talked about, like, yes, we have standards. Yes, we have a high bar, but you can't set it so high where you just like kill yourself. Like, you stress, you know what I mean? So I love that you were like, yes, I have high standards. I have a high bar, but it's got to be something I could meet. Talk to me a little bit more about that, because I love that.
That's been a journey, probably just in the last couple of years. And it's funny that it's been such a journey for me, because I will constantly tell new people, whether they're new nurses coming in to just into nursing in general, or nurses that are switching from, say, an ICU setting or some other setting to endo. I'll say, okay, I know where your bar might be at for your nursing skills. But remember, this is something very new. So don't set it too high, and meet those little goals. Set yourself a goal every week, set yourself a goal every month. But don't make things that are unattainable, because it's just going to burn you out and frustrate you. So even though you want to have a high bar, and having a high bar looks good, or whatever that might feel like for you, if it's not attainable, then it's just completely going to destroy you. So that's I had to learn it myself when I preach it all the time, and then I had to learn it myself. So.
And that's like so true. Like literally, you guys better have written this down. Because I even say all the time when you guys go into clinical and stuff, like it is just not realistic. Like I'm going to get every single epidural. I want everything to be simple. I'm going to get that. No, like you're going to tube the esophagus, but you're going to know, because you're going to notice it. Like it's going to happen. You're not going to get a spinal. I didn't get a spinal the other day, right? Life goes on, right? You're going to learn more from the epidurals you don't get than the ones you do. So don't have this like crazy standard of like my induction sequence going to be perfect in this, because you're just going to get frustrated, like she said. So literally write that down. Like someone else is saying that besides me, guys. It's true, because you're going to exhaust yourself.
Right. I think the other thing that can be hard is there's a different side of that too, right? There's the people that don't know what they don't know, and that can be dangerous too. So you have to be humble enough to say, hey, I don't know this. I need help. And that's okay. And that, that's also part of growing too as a healthcare provider. I feel like, you can have a lot of people that can come out of school with a lot of book knowledge and not realize what they don't know, because a lot of healthcare is just being in those situations and those experiences and learning from those. So I try to take at least, if not every day, every week, try to find a learning experience or a learning point, because if we're not always learning and taking away points, then you're not growing. You're just going to be stagnant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love that. And I like that you talked about being humble. I think that's always like a huge part of obviously anesthesia. It's a huge part of nursing. It's a huge part of working where we do. And I think, again, y'all, you're not going to graduate and have every single experience down, but you got to have that foundational knowledge. You have to know how to communicate. Ask for help, like you said earlier, because I love that you said, like, it's about getting experiences. You have to just keep showing up, even when you become the CRNA. I mean, there's stuff I've seen at like school. I would never see that in school. You know what I mean? Like I've seen the most insane things, but you figure it out. You have your foundational knowledge, and you just have to keep, like you said, showing up and getting those experiences. That's literally what it comes down to. What would you say, because we talk a lot about values and like leadership principles in my coaching program, what are like 3 values of leadership you think that you hold very tightly to?
I think that being humble, being able to ask for help, is definitely one of them, because you're not going to always have the answer, but you need to be able to know where to find the answer, and be humbled enough to know that you don't know the answer. I think that the other quality about myself that I like as a leader is that I don't ever ask any of my team to do things that I can't do. I always am able to do what I ask them to do. And while I might be more of the expert at it than them, I will never ask them. I will always be able to do everything that I ask them to do. And then I think just having, sticking to your guns, there has to be, a buck stop to your kind of thing, at some point. So, decisiveness, I guess, is probably a good word, for it. But yeah, I think knowing when to ask for help, again, using an interdisciplinary team, approach is another good part of leadership that maybe gets overlooked a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that too. And I think it applies to you guys too, that yes, one day you are going to be the CRNA in the room, but however, it's always like, I mean, you guys are so great with putting the monitors on, getting them ready so we can like run to the bathroom and like kind of do stuff between cases. But just also remember, as the SRNA, as the resident, like you can also wipe down the stuff. You can do, you know what I mean? Like you should be able to do all of those things as well. And just really being a team player and hanging up your stuff nicely when you leave, you know what I mean? Just those little things like that of being able to have that emotional social intelligence to read the room and to do all the things as well, cleaning up after yourself, trying to get as many supplies as you need, like really taking, I think I really did that a lot in my new job, was like, I wanted to be independent. I was not scared to ask for help, but I also wanted to like, I can be independent. I can get all my stuff together. I can clean my area. I can do this too. So I think that's also a huge part too. So I like that you brought that up as one of your kind of core kind of values, is that I can do everything my team can do. Like I can do all the roles. I can do all the things. And I think that's really good to lead by example rather than by, this is what I say.
Yeah. Right.
So I love
I
that.
don't know how to do it, but this is what I say you need to do. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Be able to. No, I think that some of the best, when I see some of your residents, I think some of the best ones that I like are probably the ones that will search out something that maybe I have to offer them, or another nurse that's been a nurse for a while, because then it's taking all those little bits of knowledge, all what most of just any learning is, right, is taking a bunch of little pieces and being able to put them all together and develop, things that you've learned. So I think that everybody has something to offer, especially in a group like our setting. We have a lot of experienced nurses. And so I think that people, residents could take a lot from even, little bits. We all work together and learn little bits from each other.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And that's why I say all the time, like you can learn something from everybody. And some of even the most difficult people I've encountered in my CRNA education, I still, like I just told someone the other day, like he was so nasty, but literally I can work a glide scope because of him. You know what I mean? Like he taught me so much about the glide, so many tips and tricks. It was awful. So yes. And again, you guys can learn from everybody. There's so many nurses you are going to encounter, and, talk to them, see what their experience is, ask what they expect from you. Like get ahead. I always say over communicate in clinical, get ahead of the curve. What can they teach you about this patient? Or ask them, hey, what have you seen other kind of people do? What is that? Like there's such a wealth of information in these perioperative settings for you guys. And I just urge you to go out and grab it. Doesn't matter if you like them or not. Who cares?
Right.
You're there to learn. You're paying a lot of money to get a really high education. Squeeze the life out of it.
Yeah. And the other thing that's different about intra-op or these kind of is that everybody's there right at one time. So it's nursing staff, it's the surgeon, it's anesthesia. We're able to collaborate really quickly, really easily together because everybody's there. It's not just phone tag or trying to. It's a very interdisciplinary idea that can happen right there. I mean, we've done it, right? We've had, hey, this and this and this patient, we all need to kind of huddle about it and see what we're going to do about it. And then I think we all work together very well and are able to, if we have concerns about patients, we can bring them up and figure out a plan relatively quickly with everyone being there right at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely like a small hometown feel, even in the hospital. You can grab anybody and say, hey, I have a question, or hey, Sarah, I'm kind of concerned about this. Why I do this? Can you go investigate that? Can you go call the nurse? You know what I mean? Like it's very nice. So we'll kind of jump to that for a little bit. Because I know so much of being a CRNA, being perioperative, is communication, right? What are some kind of gems or just some like advice you can give the residents in communicating with surgeons and having hard conversations and bringing things up?
They are one of the trickiest groups to communicate with. I've had my times of absolutely being screamed at, but I think early communication is probably the key. So if I think about like a patient that I might be concerned with, I'm going to the proceduralist, I'm going to anesthesia and talking to them about it early on, early communication, open communication. I think what surgeons like is succinct conversation. They want you to get to the point because they don't need to listen to a giant soliloquy about something. Just get to the point. And and the answer will probably be, well, it's your decision, but at least you've passed it on. So early communication, succinct communication, and then being able to answer those follow-up questions that they might ask, knowing, hey, if I bring this to them, what else might they ask me? Which might be hard early on in the career, right? You're not going to know exactly what you're supposed to know or say, but just maybe having all your ducks in a row. And they might yell, you just listen, and then you just move on and just keep talking, because you get stronger from those conversations. Absolutely.
Oh, I love that. You get stronger from it. I love that. Yes.
Absolutely. But early on, I think it's just catching something right off the bat that you might be concerned with. It's that idea of if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it probably is, and you probably should bring it up. The trust your gut idea has pretty much always worked for me. So, and if it doesn't, hey, you said something and you move on. That's fine. But definitely trust your gut and bring it up early.
Yeah. And I think, again, that's also leaning on your team of the day, bringing it up maybe to a nurse, someone you kind of trust, like, hey, I'm having this concern, or your preceptor or whatever. How do you think I should handle it? And even I sometimes ask, like, if I'm going to somewhere new, I said, hey, how does a surgeon like to be approached? And I like that you said getting to the point. I mean, even, hey, this guy's hemoglobin 7. If he doesn't have his blood by the time his procedure's ready, we're pushing it back or we're doing it tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to hear a full-on story about hemoglobin and oxygen. Nobody cares. But
right.
Hemoglobin's too low. Can't do it unless he gets the blood.
Yep.
And then wait for the
exactly.
for whatever's gonna brace yourself. And then, but like you said, you have to move on. I mean, it is a high stress environment, and some people are better equipped at handling stuff than others. And we have to remember, I say a lot, we just have to remember people's humanity, and we have to remember it here. And even like teaching my toddler right now, no, I don't like the dog. I'm like, no, you don't like the dog's behavior, trying to make it about the behavior. And I know it is so hard to not take things personally, but you're there for a reason. You're there to learn. You're there to take care of a patient. You're there to be uncomfortable, because these uncomfortable situations are going to help you grow, and you are going to get better from them. And so much is just literally about grab the bull by the horn, communicate, bring up your concerns. And then, what I always say too is later on, you have to give yourself time to process your emotions, because it is stressful. There is a lot going on. And I think that's a good segue into, let's talk about like burnout. Let's talk about times when your career wasn't so pretty, Sarah.
Yeah. It's, I've always said that being comfortable with being uncomfortable is something that's okay. When you talk about being uncomfortable, you have to have a point in yourself that you're okay with it, though, because there will be situations where you will be uncomfortable, and you just have to work with it. Okay. But, burnout hasn't been too bad. I think everybody kind of got it during COVID. Everybody was unsure, of what was happening. I kind of started during that time. I really started some mindfulness exercises with myself, just a couple of small, quiet minutes every day where I just am to myself. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot at all, just a little bit. And then I think this past fall, the past 2 years has been quite stressful because you throw in everything else too. You throw in a family, you throw in a child that is busy, is growing up and is busy, and you see, cliche-ish, you see life kind of flying by. So it can get challenging. I feel like owning your own yeses and nos is extremely important. You need to know when to say yes and when to say no. It's hard for me to say no, so that was hard for me. But then I said, you know what? No, I have to own my own yeses and nos, and they'll come from me, and that's helped too. I think the other thing that's helped me with burnout and stress is exercise. I really do like to exercise. It doesn't have to be much a day either. It just get out there and get your mind clear. Luckily, I haven't had a point in my career where I was like, oh, I got to do something different. I can't do this. I, just kind of plug on. But I think knowing where you're at yourself and being in tune with yourself is the hardest part, but is the most important part.
I love that. We talk a lot. I think like one of the first pillars in my coaching program is self-awareness and acceptance of reality. And I think that self-awareness is so key, especially for emotional intelligence, especially in this operating room environment. And I like that, like, we don't have to make mindfulness and self-care a big deal. Like, just take a few minutes. Even for me as a mom, my kids can sit in front of the TV for 20 minutes because I just need to do my prayer time and something. If I don't do that in the morning, I'm just shifted off. So it's just making yourself a priority for 10, 15 minutes. And I like what you said about the moments. Like, life can feel like it's flying by. When you're at clinical, when you're at work, be there. Just be there, right? Be in that moment. When you go home, be there. You're going to figure out your study schedule. Be there for dinner. Even if it's like, I have 5 minutes to eat dinner with my kid, be in that moment and be there for it. Like, be present as much as you can versus worrying about tomorrow and what's going to happen next, or what if this or what if that. Just be in that moment. So I love that you said that. It's so true, because it flies. And CRNA school is not forever, just for right now. And just make the best of it. Try to love it as best you can.
Yes.
I know it's hard. Why do you think as nurses, in general, call out the nurses. Why do you think we are so bad with our emotional and mental health?
Oh,
How can we be better?
I think that it's too natural almost for us to just want to take care of people. So whether it's then taking care of people at work, and then you're taking care of your patients, you're taking care of your coworkers, you're making sure that your bosses are happy with, what you're doing, but then you're still thinking about your kids at home or a husband at home. And I think that we just almost do too much caregiving, and we need to also take care of ourselves. And we need to make sure that we're, again, making those times for everyone, whether that means making literally a schedule, of who you're going to, spend time with or that. But I think that we're, like I said, almost too much of a caregiver sometime where we can't pare it back and take care of ourselves, or we give too much almost, but which is a good quality, but it can be stressful too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, like, bring second pillar of my program, compassion. Like, you have to turn that compassion onto yourself. You can't just be pouring out all day and, oh my God, you know what I mean? You have to bring some of that back to yourself, that you are also doing your best in any given day with what you have. And that's just, the self-awareness piece, the self-compassion piece. I like scheduling. Like, schedule. If you have to schedule a Zoom call with your bestie. I just saw my good friend yesterday. I haven't seen her in years, from New York. And I just was like, those moments just feel like I'm so filled up today just by being in her presence and seeing her yesterday, so don't underestimate scheduling 15 minutes to just talk to a good friend or connect with somebody. And just, again, the moments, guys, like, live the moments, like, be in them, and it'll just make hard things more enjoyable.
What I've started doing with the friend group is we go out to dinner once a month, and then we make sure when we're out that night for dinner, we're making the plan for the next month. So we have it in the calendar. We know exactly where we're going, because it is all that break away with friends time is extremely important. And that's something else I've been trying to do more of, because it's important. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. It really fills your cup to just get away from, sometimes just the everyday craziness, you know what I mean? Even just like a solid hour. So I love that scheduling, with your partner, your friend, your mom, whatever it may be, your sister, like, schedule that time in. You have time for that. You have to have time to have some compassion and love on yourself and be around people. Community, connection. I mean, connection, I think a lot of things that happen in CRNA school is we get disconnected. We get disconnected from self. Am I good enough? Am I doing enough? I don't feel, this. And such a huge part of healing that disconnect is just getting back into connection with self and others. And I love that. That brings me to another point, as we were talking before we were planning this episode out, is I hear all the time from all of y'all, I want to be the best. I have to be the best. I have to have the 4.0. I have to get all my epidurals. I have to be the best. All I want to do is be the best. Why is that not the best goal to have? From a high achieving type A perfectionist myself. Okay. Right. I've had to learn this, and I coach on this all the time, but I'm going to let Sara talk about this.
Well, and again, it kind of goes back to that bar, right? Like, but it's so hard to learn. And I hate to say that it takes kind of years and years to develop that. But if you go into it early on knowing that, hey, this is something I need to watch because I'm a type A, and I need to make sure that I'm not stressing myself out by having a bar too high, having expectations for myself that I might not be able to meet, then I think you're ahead of the game. If you can realize that about yourself, I think that's almost more intelligent than being that type A that is saying, I'm just going to get everything right now, is knowing what you don't know. Again, we had said that too. You have to realize what you don't know, and it's okay to not know, because you're not going to come out of there knowing everything. You're not going to be expected to know everything. You're not going to be expected to get every epidural. You're not going to, make sure, just kind of like we tell our kids, it's try your best. As long as you're trying your best up to exactly everything that you can do, that's honestly what people can ask. If that bar does look higher for different people, but as long as you're setting little goals, attaining those little goals, moving forward, know where you need to be at, I think that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah. And I even tell people sometimes, like, what if your goal for your personal self was just like turning down your flows? Like, if you just remember to turn your flows down, or just, you know what I mean? Like, just little things like that, like, matter. And yes. And like, failures are going to come, opportunities for humility, things are not going to work out the best, but like going into with that mentality is just, it's going to be exhausting, like we talked about earlier. And I just love the idea of set it, like literally this week, y'all, as you're listening to this, what little tiny goals can you set for yourself this week? I just want to be a little quicker in setting up my tray. I want to get my flows down. I want to be, you know what I mean? Like just little things like that. You have to define success for you. You can't always allow everybody around you to define your success, because you're never going to, it's hard to meet other people's standards sometimes. You want to, and you have to get good evals, right? There's a piece of that, but something happens when you have your own goals and you set your own self up for success. Is it actually comes and they actually see what you're doing. So it's like, it's counterintuitive, but it works.
And it's exciting then to see that success, right? Then it kind of propels you to doing more. So that's why when those littler goals are easier to attain, then you're seeing yourself grow so much quicker, I feel like. Then it's just good for your spirit, essentially.
Yes, it's more like enjoyable.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, just because, being novices, I know you have to, supporting new nurses. I know we have this whole culture of eating your young, which I'm trying to speak out against in that. But obviously our SRNAs come in and they're novices, and they're basically brand new baby nurses of what it feels like, brand new nurse anesthesia residents. But it feels awful. What is some ways that you kind of support newer nurses, or even people coming in learning endo, right? Because you have to kind of teach them the tech role. You have to teach, a lot of your nurses have come from the ICU. I mean, it's different. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what are some of the ways that you support novices coming in and learning new skills?
I think on top of just learning, especially in endoscopy, it's a lot of skill based, right? Especially for the techs. I think just taking, whether we learn a whole bunch of EGDs at once, and then we learn colonoscopies at once, and then we learn how to wash scopes at once, taking, just little bits and pieces. I think the other thing that's important that sometimes people forget to ask is, what type of learner are you? Do you want to listen to me just talk about something, or do you want me to show you something? Are you more hands-on? So I think early on, setting up, number one, realizing what your own learning style is, and then being able to convey that to whether it's your preceptor, whatever nurse you're working with, or that type of thing, knowing how I'm going to be able to teach you the best, whether it's showing you or just telling you or giving you books on everything. I think the other thing that's important is check-ins, more frequent check-ins. Whether it's check-ins about skills or whether it's check-ins just about, hey, how are you feeling about all of this? Are you overwhelmed? What's bothering you? So a lot more frequent check-ins. I'll try to do it like non-formally, essentially every few days when people have first started, because it can seem like a lot. Well-oiled machine that just runs one after another, that can seem extremely overwhelming for people. So just taking that, hey, learn this little piece today. Let's check in, see how you're doing at the end of the day. What is it you need from me? But I truly do think recognizing your own learning style is probably, and conveying that then to your preceptor is probably a huge thing that is important in learning.
I love that. And I even like the piece of because we do it in my coaching program too, is check in with yourself. Like, where are you at? You know what I mean? Where are you feeling? Where you're at? Getting really honest with yourself and just taking that moment to be like, what do I need right now?
Right.
How can I take care of myself right now? There's a lot going on. Like I said, it just takes a few minutes, but building these kind of emotionally healthy habits that kind of go a super long way. So I love that you obviously have a very supportive unit, which I love, and you can see it and you can feel it even by the way they work. You know what I mean? Like the way that they work and get it done, and they're very motivated. They're very dedicated to that. And I love that. And I think a lot of that is like you focus on individually. How do you learn best? How can I best serve you? And again, I'm always like, right, how can you serve your preceptor day? How can you serve your patient, right? I mean, we don't have to like it, but it's like, how do we serve others? And in doing so, it just makes our lives so much easier as well. So I love that you do that. And everything runs pretty damn well when you do that as well.
Yeah,
it does.
But I also, as far as with the residents, when, I'll certainly say to them, what do you need from me? What can I do for you? So I would never want anybody to not speak up, any of the SRNA students or anything, not to speak up and say, hey, this is what I need from you, whether it's even just finding something, whether it's, we're all there to, take care of the patient. So like you talked about the culture of eating your young, I am not going to just sit in a corner and be a grouchy old nurse and not help you. I much rather everybody be able to help, to get the end goal of taking good care of patients.
Yeah. You guys gotta find yourself a Sarah. You guys gotta find yourself one of those at your facility and get some, just have that one person that you're like, there were so many people I just latched onto at clinical that I was like, you're a good one. Thank you. Because it can be a lot. Well, I want to shout you out. You're a certified nurse. You're a certified nurse now. You studied for that hard.
Yes.
Talk to me about advanced education, lifelong learning, especially in healthcare and nursing.
Absolutely. So I had graduated from an associate program, out nursing, doing my thing, making great money at 21. So I thought I'm good to go. I have an associate degree. I'm a registered nurse. I'm good for the rest of my life. I don't need to go back. Should have gone back at that time to get my bachelor's. Fast forward to, 20 years into my career or so, the hospital made a policy that anybody in more leadership needed to have at least a bachelor's degree. So went back and got my bachelor's online. My daughter was young. It's busy. Everybody's busy. You just do it. It's late night studying. I kind of grumbled at it in the beginning. And then I thought, you know what? No, I am really not teaching my daughter a good lesson here. It is really good to be a lifelong learner. It really, really is. So I can show her that, hey, I can run a household. I can work. I can do this. It's good for her to see that we are constantly learning. We need to constantly learn, however that is. And this was going back to school, getting my bachelor's. And then, when the certifications came up, it was just like, I see myself in GI for quite a while. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Toughest test I've ever taken was that certification. Honestly, it was very challenging, but it was good to get through. And now I just keep wanting to do CEUs, and I want to keep learning, because you do need to embrace lifelong learning. I think it's a good example for not just other staff, but then, any youngsters in your life to see that it doesn't just stop after college, or doesn't need to just stop after 25, 30 years old, whenever you first get your degree.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope you guys hear that. I have other 2 episodes where we talk literally about it's good for your kids to see you do this. It is. It's not easy on you. No one's saying it's easy on you, but you're not harming your kids by elevating your education and doing hard things and failing in front of them. So what advice how did you kind of get through? Cause you work, your husband works, you guys work in the same place. Super cute. They're super cute guys. But, you guys work in the same place. He's busy. He's got to take call. You're learning, you're running a unit, you have a kid, how did you do it? What were kind of some things that got you through?
I think lack of sleep is number one, but no, I think that, filling in when you can. You just, I wanted to still be able to have those times when my daughter was awake, to be with her. So you sacrifice. You do. It's not going to last forever. It's late nights up studying. It's up super early studying. Similar things to a nursing school or, CRNA school and that. But I think seeing end goal and seeing, your pride in getting that accomplished, your family's pride in you getting it accomplished is a lot too. Again, making a schedule, I would, kind of fit it in whenever I could. She was napping, I was studying. If my husband was off, on call and it was a late night, I wasn't doing anything, I was like, oh, I better study. So you kind of, do what you have to do at the time. But I think making sure, again, that you're scheduling enough time for yourself, for self-care, that you're scheduling enough time for just family time, but then maybe studying comes last and late at night, but you fit it in. So
absolutely. I love that. So what do you expect from your anesthesia providers? Being super honest. I want them to hear this. I want to hear this. But what do you expect from us? In endo, in bronchs, colons, EGDs, etc. What is your expectation of nurse anesthetists?
I think that probably the most important to me is, especially with those sicker patients, is just your awareness of what's going on with that patient. We get a lot where it's almost a little bit factory-like, right? We're just bringing in the next one, bringing in the next one, bringing in the next one. There does have to be a level of, you have to know your patient, and because things can happen. I'm a very prepared person. We need to be prepared for if this goes bad, or if we need to be prepared for then if this happens. So all those sequelae down the line that can happen. So I think just having a general, a general knowledge of your patient. And then, just listening to the team, listen to my concerns. If I'm off on something, I'll totally own that. And I'm completely fine with that, but at least we've talked about it. And then, just looking up, if you don't know, then if you could check in with your attending and find out, who might be okay with it, or have somebody else look into it, because it's very hard to backtrack with somebody that's super sick or something that's happening with a patient. It's a lot more easier to be prepared. So I think one of the best things is just to be prepared. I'm not saying know absolutely everything about a patient, but listen to your nurses, listen to people that might be bringing up concerns. Way easier to be prepared than it is to backtrack when things are going south. So just that open communication, the interdisciplinary communication, open communication with nursing staff and the proceduralist is important.
I love that. The awareness, preparation is like everything, executing the plan, having a plan B, C, D, E, or, what could go wrong. And again, talking with them. I mean, even I'm very open. I'm like, hey guys, this airway is super kind of iffy. I don't like it. Probably going to run them a little lighter, and you just kind of communicate with the team. Very, brief to the point. Like I said, nobody wants a whole synopsis of it, but just like, yeah, funky airway, or this is kind of off. Can we do this? Or even, hey, patient had something. Can we push this back? Can we, you know what I mean? You're just constantly talking with your team, looking ahead, looking at your patients. And again, being in the moment with that patient when you're putting them to sleep. Is there anything you don't like? Is there things you don't like that we do?
Providers that don't participate, because, we all have our job, especially in endo, we all have our jobs, right? The tech is helping the physician. The nurse is running management of the room, circulating nurse, so to speak, in intra-op idea. The anesthesia provider that sits in the corner just on their phone is of zero help to me, other than pushing some meds that I'm not able to push. So it sounds small, but it is huge. The participating anesthesia provider is very appreciated by
please,
by staff. But then again, just that good communication. I think it's just key. It really is. So participation, communication. Being nice is just like the icing on the cake. So it's we all love working with you. So when we see your name on, everybody fights for that room.
Oh, it makes me feel so good. I know and guys, I'm usually like cranky. I'm like, when I have to drive there, I'm cranky in the morning. And then once I get there and I see everybody, I'm fine. But I walk in, I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm here.
Doesn't even show.
Awesome. Yeah. You guys are great. I actually have not been in endo in a while there. So I think I'm there in a couple days. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, endo is fun. I feel like some people, I don't think endo is like a love or hate thing. I know some people do really like it. Some people, but it really, again, like if you can get into, especially hospital endo, those patients are sick. And even the ones that are coming in outpatient, elective, whatever, a lot of times they're not eligible for surgery centers sometimes, depending on where you're at. So whether they've got, really bad sleep apnea or that, but the endo suite, bronchs, sharing, because literally you're sharing the airway when you're doing EGDs and bronchs. And it's really learning how to do that MAC, working on that communication, thinking swiftly, being super vigilant, being prepped. It's such a great environment for you guys to learn. So I really encourage you guys to get out there and do endo. And plus, when you get out of school, there's a lot of really good high-paying endo jobs too. You know what I mean? And you could be standalone offices and stuff like that. So it's just a really good place to hone a lot of skill sets, especially like your leadership and everything. And plus, I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I think most of the endo nurses are great. So, but maybe that's just me.
You can have runs where it's a bunch of really great, healthy, 30 to 50-year-old patients all day long just doing colonoscopies. But then you can have those patients that, like you said, bad OSA, things like that they go down the tube so quickly, or terrible head and neck cancer, something like that we're putting PEG tubes in. That it's can be a big variety of patients. So
yeah, absolutely. Huge variety. It's not just, and some places, you go, it's very healthy kind of, in it, but still guys, things still happen even at surgery centers and EGDs. Healthy patients aspirate or spasm, you know what I mean? Like things do happen. So it's very just good airway management. Again, all the things that we've kind of talked about is in there. Anything else you want to share? You want to talk about? You've dropped so many good gems. I love that you say so many things. I say from a different angle. I love it.
No, I think there's that big takeaway can be just self-care and communication. So just be sure. It took me a long time to learn to take better care of myself and to check in with myself and know where I'm at, just for my own sanity. They're coming out of school not with so much knowledge and not knowing how to do it, and feeling inadequate. But just know where you're at, check in with yourself and make sure you're all good, because it can get overwhelming quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say they hate when I say this to him. I'm in my coaching, but I'm like, sometimes you got to go into the fire. I'm like, and that's why I think coaching is so important, because I'm like, you have to go in those difficult rooms. You have to sometimes be with preceptors that or whatever. I'm like, go into the fire. Then we come back into coaching and then we work through it, right? It's about holding that emotional space to process things and to get through them. Like, you can go do hard things, and then I'm going to give you principles and help teach you that you're going to be okay too. You know what I mean? You can't just do all the hard things and I have to be the best and beat yourself up. That's the cycle we get into. So I love that. That's the huge takeaway, is do the hard things, learn the stuff, grow, be uncomfortable. Then you have to come back and give your nervous system space to kind of handle and process stuff. And that's really essentially what we do in coaching and what I try to do. And I think it's made me a better anesthesia provider. And I know from chatting with you, it's probably made you a better nurse and leader when you've learned, when you've learned to be compassionate and to just spend those minutes checking in with yourself versus just blowing through life and blowing through everything so quickly. So especially, in a very high paced environment that you're working in all the time. Yeah.
We teach our kids, I'll teach my daughter that they might be, you feel like a bad teacher or something is not teaching you. You have to take a little bit away from everybody. You have to take a little bit of learning from everyone. And it's important. Even if it's a surgeon that's yelling at you, just somehow try to learn something, because otherwise it's going to drive you crazy otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. What is your kind of, like, speaking of that, I know we talked a little bit earlier, what is your kind of way? I mean, you've been doing this a long time now, but what is your kind of way of not taking things so personally and not being so beat down when you're getting screamed at?
Oh gosh, I know. You used to just take it home and think about it all the time. I think the confidence in knowing that you've done everything that you can, you've answered their question to whatever they need, you've performed the task to whatever they need. And if you haven't been able to, you're finding help. Then that's all you can do. If you've done what you need to do for yourself, for the patient, half the time they're just spouting off things to spout off things. So it's terribly hard not to take things personally. I've had people talking down at me with feeling like tears are going to well up in my eyes, but you just have to, it is, stay strong, know that you're doing the best that you can. And simple principle, but that's, usually my aim.
Yeah. And I think we talked about too, is just always keep that patient in the center of what you do, right? We're there to serve. We are there to serve people. Just remember that. And your value, your worth is not touchable. And I think what you just said is literally like integrity. Like, as long as you know that you were in your integrity, you listened to your gut, you brought it up, that's it. Like that, you can sleep at night knowing that. You know what I mean? It's okay if they didn't like it. Other people's behavior is on them. We're actually doing a podcast about that soon, dealing with all the humans, so it'll be fun. But other people's behavior is theirs. You own your integrity, and you should be able to sleep well at night knowing that you stayed in your integrity, you communicated, you held to your values, and again, you're serving the patient, and that's really all that matters. So that's why we're here. So love it. All right. Well, Sara, this has been an awesome conversation. We had so many technical difficulties, y'all. You have no idea. But I was like, it's fine. This is going to be powerful and great. But you had a little bit of things. So any last minute things you want to say, Sara?
So no, I think that just take care of yourselves. It's important. Take those little moments in your time in school, when you get out. Just take those moments for yourself. It's important.
I love it. All right. You guys heard it from her. I love it. And thank you so much for listening. And I will see you on the next episode.